Now we live right up front. All right. Welcome everybody. If you're joining us with Facebook Live, Chief Randy Brice, Queen Creek Police Department, down here at Bahama Bucks in Queen Creek. As you can see, I've already kind of gone native here. I've got my drink. It's not very tropical, but it's still great. So come on down to see us and enjoy some ice cream as this part of our outreach for social. The ice cream social for this year is still a little bit of a hybrid approach, but we'd love to see you if you can come out here and we talk to you a little bit about the department, what's going on, a little bit about the town. If you're new here, it'd be great to see you. If you're an old-time resident, still glad to talk to you. There's so many great things that are happening with the police department. I did bring some friends that we'll introduce here in a minute, a few of our sergeants that have joined the department. Just a lot of exciting parts of the organization moving forward. And we're getting ready to go live in January, so it's just right around the corner. So a lot of fun stuff happening. As you can see behind me, one of our police cars is out here. If you want to come bring the kids down and check it out, and we'll be glad to show you a few things that some of the features, some of the exciting parts that we have with how that's going to help our officers stay safe and also be out there in the community to make sure the community's safe. So if you have any questions, if you can't make it down here, please send us a question. And we'd be glad to answer those live. Anything about the department, our finances, or whatever it might be glad to give you a little bit more information. But again, we're right in the middle. One of the parts right now that's been really in-depth and kind of arduous, to be honest, is getting everybody hired. As you can imagine, it's super important. One of the things that from the very beginning, our approach has always been to make sure that we have that great connection with the community. And I've said this over and over, and everything that we've talked to the public about and internally is our department is all about the connection with the community, because we want to serve with that respect and compassion, making sure that we're out there doing what you want us to do while keeping the community safe. So it's all about hiring the right people and making sure that the people are in place that will make that difference and that understand really what it means to connect with the community. Law enforcement has grown into so much more than just enforcing the laws. That's just a small piece of what we do now. And so it takes a really, really versatile person to be able to handle all those pressures. So that's an exciting part about actually having the opportunity to pick and choose who we have. And in fact, one of our residents that just showed up here, got talking to her before we got live on camera here, is actually a spouse from one of our brand new hires that are coming on here soon. So it's exciting to talk to family that is going to be part of the department as well. So the excitement is just really building. I think there's a lot of great things that we can do over the next few years together. So we are looking for lots of input. So please reach out to me today, right now. If for some reason you missed this and you see the recording later, we'd be glad to still answer your questions. My staff and I are trying to constantly reach out and make sure that we're giving that information. Any questions so far? We're still okay, all right. So the weather's nice, we're outside. It's a little bit of drizzle, so it doesn't feel like Arizona necessarily, but nice weather out here, cold drinks, come on out and see us. Bahama Bucks has been very nice and cordial to be able to host us today. Great ice cream, great drinks. I can't remember what I have. It's probably more calories than I should be drinking, but it's awesome. And I got, of course, my umbrella just in case it comes up. All right, we have a question.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about how many sworn staff and your professional staff and what that looks like.
So great question. If for those at home, if you didn't hear the question, it was about what's our staffing going to look like from a sworn or professional staff perspective. So again, there's one thing I'd actually like to start with the professional staff. I think a lot of times they're overlooked in a police department because we see the men and women on the street in uniform doing all the things that is kind of that forward facing, and we forget about all the people that are in the background keeping the department moving and actually functioning the way it should be. So our professional staff, whether that's a records person or a specialist that takes care of crime scene management, there's a lot of things that go on to the nuances of professional staff members. So to start with, we have 9 professional staff that will be joining us, and that includes crime scene technicians or specialists, a records specialist, and some supervision there as well. We also have a really unique position called a police support specialist. which will be an individual that can work not only in an administrative capacity, but out on the street, handling accident investigations, helping transport detainees, also doing some selective enforcement with town codes. So there are a lot of things that position is going to be able to do for us, and it provides additional help to keep the patrol officers on the street doing the things that they would normally do. And then some other administrative help along in there just to make sure all the paperwork's going where it's supposed to. And I apologize for the sounds, but you know how Rittenhouse, if you're from here, Rittenhouse is always active, and so I'll try to speak loud, make sure you can hear me. As far as sworn staff, we're looking at we just adjusted it again last council meeting, but I believe it is 63 sworn staff. That includes myself, 3 lieutenants, 9 sergeants, and 44 sworn officers. So those officers will be strewn out primarily to cover patrol, because we'll be very patrol-based to start with. And then we have a couple of specialties, including school resource officers, traffic officers, both in investigative capacity and as motor officers. So we will start with motors, and also detectives. And the detectives will handle the entire array of possible investigations, from all the way from violent crimes down to property crimes and other people crimes. So lots of different jobs. It sounds simple as, okay, we got patrol and detectives, but we'll publish this probably soon as our organizational chart, but the nuances of the department is actually quite intensive, and as you build these things, it's kind of crazy to see all the things you have to do. But great question.
Are you hiring right now?
So great question. We are hiring right now. So we have open positions that I believe the recruitments that are open right now is lieutenant, and that's all we have open right this second. But we'll be opening up some more professional staff positions. I believe our crime analyst, and I'm blanking on what the other ones are that are going to be opening soon. But we will. The easiest way to go to is go to QueenCreekAZ.gov. Make sure my producer in the back says I said that right. And go to the job portion, and there is you can fill out an electronic card in there that will notify you of any upcoming recruitments and what the specific jobs are. So you can set specific permissions of what you're looking for, but you'll be notified the minute it goes live. But right now, I think the only thing we're looking at right now is open is lieutenant. Now we're still in the recruitment process and going through the people that we have got applications in for, but most everything is closed right this second, but we'll be opening up some new things here in the next few weeks. Any other questions so far? All right.
Talk about the timeline a little bit more.
All right. So next question is a little bit about the timeline of what's going to happen right now. So we just kind of give you a historical perspective. I came on July 20th of last year and was basically given a little less than 18 months to get the department up and running. So there were obviously a lot of things to do. Hiring was a big portion of that, but also just all the equipment and things that you have to buy. Very long lead items due to a lot of things, not just COVID, but some of the supply chain issues have been quite the challenge. So those have been all the things that we've been doing up front, along with a lot of our, just the backbone of our department is all of the computer systems and records management that we have to do. So that's been kind of the last year or so, including we started the heavy recruitment in January. So our hope is to have all of our staff hired, at least the majority of it, by the end of September, because we'll be starting an intensive internal training course that will address all the things that police and police professional staff need to know to make sure the department is running correctly and get everybody calibrated to the way that we want things done here based on our priorities and our mission. And so January, the first part of January, we will be going live. We'll announce the date soon on when that will happen, but it'll be the early part or the mid part of January. We're still working through some logistics as far as our dispatch system and when that's going to actually be able to do a cutover. There's a lot to making sure that all the services get cut over from the sheriff's office over to our municipality. So a lot of things to work through, but our tentative timeline is early to mid January to be live. So right now, what that means for the public is that you continue to call MCSO for any type of policing needs, but you can still reach out to us for any questions about the department. and what's happening, we'd be glad to answer that. But if it is anything operational that you need right this minute, obviously 911 if it's an emergency, and the non-emergency number for MCSO for any other issues. And they will continue to cover those services until we go live. And there'll be a lot of outreach when we get closer to that. So probably, November, December into January, we'll be putting out lots of information about what's coming next, what's going to happen, what you need to do as a resident or somebody that's visiting, how you access those services. We'll make sure that is well understood way before we get there. But yeah, for right now, please call MCSO for any current law enforcement concerns.
So if someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Great. So my staff and I can be reached there. If you go to the website, and the police department page is part of the town's website. So again, go to QueenCreekAZ.gov, and you can find under departments. We're in that area, and my email and all my staff, at least my command staff emails, are in there, and we'll continue to add some of our other staff as we specialize positions. But yeah, you can reach out to us from email, or you can call the town's main number, and you'll be directed to our message boards. So just to be upfront is that we are super busy when it comes to getting all things going on. So we're not always in our offices. We're out and about, lots of different meetings and site visits and things that are happening. We're just all over the place trying to get this stuff done. So be patient with us. We'll try to get back to you same day, but you'll hear from us. Email is probably the best way. You can also go to, there's a comment section on the same PD page where you can ask a question, and that will get routed to me as well. But it's just a web form where you fill in what your question is, and we can respond to those as well.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the vehicles?
All right. So vehicles, it's always a fun thing. This is really the office for the officer. So we really try to look at the police vehicle and equipment in that perspective, or that light, is that how do we make sure that the officers have what they need, they're comfortable, and it sounds silly, but getting in and out, sitting for long periods of time, trying to work in your car on reports and things can be really challenging over a long shift. So with all that in mind, we have really looked at trying to find a platform that's big enough that can carry all the equipment that we need, that has the storage and the security necessary to make sure that all of the items and equipment that we carry is safe and secure. So we looked for a platform that was big enough and had the ergonomics necessary to keep the officers safe and comfortable during their shifts, so that because we get injuries over long periods of time from just repetitive movements. So we went with a Tahoe. We do have 2020s and 2021s. And I have a little bit of scars from all of this. I'll tell you right now, as acquiring vehicles, for anybody that's trying to buy a car right now, it is a challenge just because of some of the supply issues. So we have a great council. I just can't say enough about the town council and the town management. We're super supportive from the very beginning to make sure that we had what we needed to be able to get those orders in. And it was literally within a month or so of me being here that we ordered all our vehicles. That's how fast we had to make this happen, and they're just barely getting finished. So it's taken over a year to get everything done, and that's fast. I know that sounds crazy, but that is fast for a vehicle. So the Tahoe, we also looked at what kind of markings, what kind of reflective items on the outside, what kind of lighting we wanted. And if you come out here, we can give you a little bit of a tour on where things are and why they are. But the lights are placed very specifically to make sure that as we're going down the road, that we're highly visible. As we're entering intersections, that we're highly visible. Because we want to make sure that if we're in some sort of emergency operation, that the public is safe, you know where we're at, and that the officer is safe as well. One of the really cool additions that we added to this particular setup for the vehicle is called a rumbler. Our upfitter has done a great job of getting us the latest technology to make sure that we do the best job as possible. And this rumbler is a really neat device. Other than just a siren, I don't know if I'm the same way as the rest of you. When a cop gets behind me, I get nervous too. But when they're running in an emergency fashion, sometimes it's hard to hear the siren until they're right on top of you. So this rumbler is a subsonic and very low frequency device that you can feel coming. So it's not just the sound, but the feel. So it's a really neat device. So we've looked for the latest technology to keep everybody safe and to make sure the officers are working in a great environment.
So this next question ties into the partnerships that QCPD is doing. So Laura is wondering
So question is, if you couldn't hear it, is what kind of partnerships is QCPD looking at? And specifically, are we hiring people to help coordinate those types of activities? And the one in particular that's mentioned is mental health. So yes, we are looking at how to deploy that from the very beginning is what can we do as a department to make sure that all these services are properly managed and that we're reaching out to those vulnerable people in the community, but also making sure that we're giving services where we need to. So it's always a balance between staffing and the needs of the community. So from the very beginning, we're going to be utilizing partnerships with nonprofits and other government organizations to make sure that we have the resources necessary so when we go on a call that everybody stays safe as possible. Mental health is at the top of our list. So without going into great detail, we have a team that's on it right now to make sure that we have mental health support for responses, which means if we go out to a call and there's a mental health crisis so that it's de-escalated and we keep people safe, we're working on those types of resources and what kind of capacity we can have. I will tell you that we're also trying to make sure that all of our officers, from the very beginning, are going to go through mental health training. But we're also looking for people that are what we call CIT. They're a critical intervention training or technique that provides that nuances of dealing with mental health problems. So we'll have internal capacity to make sure those things are happening. We'll also be working with nonprofits and other organizations that can give us responses on emergency situations, but also that we can refer people to long-term for follow-up and other things. So we'll be, much like other agencies, we'll have kind of all those stages of support for the mental health process, and we'll continue to try to find, to kind of answer the original question, is will we hire somebody? Not at first will we have a specialized person, but we do have that on our roadmap, so that we'll be looking at a community outreach or community coordination, victim services, those kind of things are on our roadmap for the future to make sure that we have staff that are designated to that. Right now we have a way to manage those in the meantime using other partnerships. So hope that answers the question. Sure.
How many police support specialists are you hiring?
So the question is, how many police support specialists are we hiring? For those that may have just joined us late, those are positions that will have a I call them the Swiss Army knife of the police department. They can do a lot of different things. They'll be able to work in records, out on the street, doing traffic investigations, some code enforcement or town enforcement. When it comes to the codes that we have. So they'll have some ability to help manage like parking violations and stuff like that. So those positions we're hiring 2 to start with, and our plan is to expand that every year so that we have a good group of people to make sure that we're helping motorists with all the things that are going on with that, getting traffic cleared up as soon as possible. We all are frustrated by traffic issues in the town. Especially when there's a crash or a collision, that tends to muck things up. So our goal is to get things moving as quickly as possible. So 2 to start with and more to come.
All right. How about volunteer positions?
So great question. So the question is, what about volunteer programs? So what we've asked, we've gotten a lot of interest in volunteers. To be honest with you, it's overwhelming, and we really appreciate the fact that the community is so excited to have us here, one, and they want to be part of what we're doing. So there is a process for volunteer programs as far as access to the building and our systems and things like that. So there is a background that we have to do, even on volunteers, is very similar to our officers. So there is some logistics involved. So our goal, to get cut to the chase here, is that we'd like to start instituting broadly a volunteer program about July of next year. And so we'll be working up to that. We're hoping to speed that up just a little bit, but right now we're focused on getting the department launched, getting the officers in place, and then we'll start to shift resources towards the end of this year of developing those programs a little more out like we want to. But we will be looking at specialized help in those volunteer positions. Well, I'd like to do people on the road where they're out helping, they're in cars, they're out patrolling. Also in programs, whether it's our training program, our records area, other community outreach programs. So we're going to look for all facets. So if there's any part of the department you might be interested in, I'm sure I'll have a place for a volunteer. But give me till July of next year and we'll have it moving.
Once you're operational, talk about where you guys will be operating out of.
Okay. So the question is once we go operational in January, where are we going to operate out of? So if you're familiar with the town, the campus, the municipal campus over south of Ocotillo, between Old Ellsworth and Ellsworth Loop, just north of the wash there, that's kind of the main campus, and there's a lot of different buildings in there. So we do have a designated public safety building that's on the very south end of that campus off of Civic Parkway. So that's where we'll end up. However, in the transition with the sheriff's office, we are going to initially start out of the historic town hall, which is off of Old Ellsworth. It's the old church-looking building, the red brick. That's where the police department will start. We'll be in there for about 2 to 6 months, depending on how fast the transition happens. We're hoping to be in the public safety building where MCSO is right now by March. But we'll make sure everybody knows where to go and when. But we will be starting in historic town hall. We'll put out maps so you can find us. But in the courtyard in between two buildings there is where the entrance will be. We'll have a reception and desk officer that will be able to take information from you. But starting in historic town hall, with about 3 months after that, hopefully we'll be over in the public safety building after some tenant improvements. So, great question.
Last 2 questions. So I'm going to queue them both up at the same time. SROs, and then how much longer will you be here as you wrap up?
Great. So let me hit the last question first, is how long am I going to be here? So our plan was to be here till about noon. If you happen to roll in at noon, that doesn't mean I'm just going to take off. I'll be glad to chat with you. But we're going to try to wrap things up at noon so we don't we're kind of taking all their parking spaces. So we want Bahama Bucks to be back to normal business. So noon is our goal. As far as school resource officers, this is a program I'm very passionate about. I really do believe that there is a place for the police department to be with the kids. There are so many ways that we can help mentor people. Security is one side of it, is that we want to keep the school community safe and cared for, but to me, again, it's back to our core mission, is about connection with the community. And what a better place to actually make a difference is to be with the kids in the community. I've said from the very beginning, it's one of the places that really says what the community is and is all about. All starts at the schools and in the faith communities. So that's where we want to be, is actually getting out and connecting with those populations. So to start with, we'll have 2 school resource officers, very similar to what the town has already deployed. There is some finances involved in those things. It's very expensive to have a school resource officer. So we will have them in Castile High School and Queen Creek High School. But our officers, our beat officers that will be working on a daily basis, are going to be stopping into a lot of schools. So one of the things that we really want to try to, change the culture is inevitably, if a police car is out in front of a school, we get 20 million calls going, what's happening? So I'd love to change the culture where you see a police car out in front of a school, you're like, awesome, they're out there connecting with the kids. And that's your first thought, rather than what happened. So we're going to be really trying to push hard for that to make sure that we're connecting with all your kids.
So we saw some questions come in that are repetitive. We'll go through and answer all of those through Facebook, but people can continue to reach out to you.
Awesome. So my producer back here, the woman behind the curtain, she just wanted to mention that there's a lot of repetitive questions that are coming in that we've maybe already discussed or answered. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. We will make sure that we get all that information back out to you. Continue to touch base with us. Any new questions or anything that hasn't been answered to your satisfaction, we'll try to go back and look at them. But feel free to reach out to me through the website. My email is on there, or there's again a feedback form on QueenCreekAZ.org, and go to I'm sorry, I already messed it up. So QueenCreekAZ.gov is our website, and find the police department page, and there is a website feedback, also my email and my lieutenants as well. So anything else before we close out? All right. Thank you so much for being with us on Facebook Live. Great feedback. This, I think policing is all about, as I mentioned before, is the connection. We can't do this without you, and we hope that you're excited to have us. We will continue to be your police department, and making sure that we find ways to always serve you in a way that's respectful and compassionate, and that we're always connecting and meeting your needs. So thanks again for being here. We'll see you next time. But again, I'll be out here for another half hour or so come out and see me and get some ice cream.